Coming from my old school, high school seemed really big. I didn't know what to say to anyone. There's so many things going on at once that I felt so overwhelmed that I started staying home a lot. My mom realized what was going on and she found this website. And at first I thought it was stupid, but there were some things that helped. I'm starting to understand things a bit better, and I realized that to face the things that freak me out the most, like just saying hi to someone in the hallways, or even asking a question in class, things that were just so simple, but just so hard for me to do. And it's not easy. In fact, it's still hard. But I'm working on it.
Have you ever gone to a restaurant and eat by yourself? Do you break out sweats, your hands tremble, or you get uncomfortable with just the thought about ordering at a counter? Do you believe that this is only a simple shyness, or is it something more severe? Find a We found out as Dr. Murray from the University of California Television discusses about social anxiety disorder, how to detect it, and how it differs from shyness in general.
I opened the show by saying it sounds like shyness when you talk about social anxiety disorder, but there's so much more to it. Can you define social anxiety disorder? And as we go along, we'll talk about why that's different than somebody who just is a little nervous.
Sure. The other term that people use in addition to social anxiety disorder, sometimes they'll call it social phobia. So people will see both terms being used. And you're right, it has an element of shyness at its core. So the concern that people with social anxiety disorder have is that when they're in situations where they're around other people, and there's the potential for other people to think badly of them, that's going to happen. So they're afraid that if they're eating in a restaurant, they're going to spill something on themselves, other people are going to notice their handshake, they're going to think badly of them, and as a result, they actually start avoiding those sorts of situations. And what's different than shyness, even though it has that element of shyness to it, is really how severe it is. For us to say somebody has social anxiety disorder, these kinds of fears about being scrutinized by other people are at a point where it interferes with their life, where they don't go out, can't do things, can't meet people, can't progress in school because they reach a point where they have to present in front of groups and find out they can't do it, and they actually divert and do something else. So once it's at the point where that severe shyness interferes with things that people do or things they want to do in the future, then we say it's social anxiety disorder.
Ladies and gentlemen, most especially to our very diligent 3i advisor, Mr. Freddie Zakin Jr., and to the person behind the screen, good day. I am Rabbi Nadir Medanio, together with my cheerful teammates, who will introduce themselves later on. It is a tremendous honor to be able to deliver a discussion that will not only provide us with information, but will also assist others in overcoming social anxiety disorder, particularly those who are suffering from it. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America in 2000, the fear of being assessed, adversely appraised, or rejected in a social or performance context is a distinguishing aspect of social anxiety disorder, also known as social phobia. Individuals who suffer from social anxiety are terrified of social situations in which they expect negative feedback or fear that their presence will make others uncomfortable. Social anxiety is advantageous at appropriate levels from an evolutionary viewpoint, causing us to pay more attention to our presentation and consider our behaviors. Lifetime prevalence rates of roughly 12%, social anxiety disorder is the third most frequent mental health disorder after depression and substance misuse. It is very frequent among teenagers, and by the end of adolescence, prevalence rates of roughly 10% have been found in the US and New Zealand samples. In the absence of treatment, social anxiety disorder continues. and individuals had been suffering from social anxiety disorder for an average of 19 years before the study began, and only 37% of them improved during the next 12 years. Anxiety is a well-known psychological concept that has a direct impact on the human race. Social studies have recently assessed how anxiety affects and is related to human life. According to estimates, over 6 million Filipinos suffer from social anxiety and has the third largest percentage of mental illnesses in the Western Pacific region, according to the World Health Organization on 2017. Furthermore, according to Paningbatan, the presence of social anxiety with its numerous characteristics has been recorded cross-culturally, indicating that the sensation of social anxiety is a universal phenomenon. Several people who possess social anxiety tend to isolate themselves. They hardly intend to seek support from other people or engage themselves in recreational activities, as stated in a local study in the Philippines. Adults who have high levels of social anxiety are reported to avoid social interaction, taking risks, and work-related engagements.
It is undeniable that social anxiety disorder is immensely prevalent today, and it is of great significance that the adverse effects be disseminated. Informing and spreading awareness of the underlying causes of social anxiety to the teenagers will undoubtedly decrease the outcome associated with it. It's important to educate individuals about the several factors as to how social anxiety affects the quality of life of teenagers and its potential negative impact on our health and well-being. Lastly, the coping strategies listed adhere to the detrimental outcomes that are associated with the topic. And as such, the team conceptualized this research in order to provide a platform for the discussion of the impact of social anxiety disorder for the quality life of teenagers. Specifically, this presentation aims to acknowledge and present the impact of social anxiety to the quality life of teenagers by providing adequate and contemporary instructional resources. Second, educate the youth about the underlying risk factors of social anxiety and the actions they may take upon it. The third objective of our research is to encourage teenagers to take part in social activities in order to elevate their confidence more. To fully comprehend the severity of the situation, Mr. Naanas and Mr. Manarog are here to talk about the risk factors of social anxiety disorder and the prevalence of the illness.
Risk factors and its prevalence. The review of related literature provides an overview of the present study on how social anxiety disorder impacts the quality life of teenagers. This section discusses the risk factors and prevalence of social anxiety disorder, how it affects quality life, and the coping mechanisms or interventions of social anxiety disorder. As stated by the World Health Organization, social anxiety disorder is a constant fear of public interactions in which embarrassment may occur and the level of anxiety is unmatched to the actual harm defined by the individual's cultural standards. People suffering from social anxiety disorder will make every effort to avoid social situations to stay away from their most dreaded scenarios. However, it is not always possible. You will have to bear the circumstance frequently and with tremendous distress.
The frequency of social anxiety disorder in children and young people has been studied in several countries. According to a large New Zealand study, 11.1% of 18 years olds met the criterion for social anxiety disorder, with lifetime prevalence ranging from 7% to 13%, according to Brook and Schmidt on 2008. As in adult research, a variety of procedures for diagnosis were used, which likely explains the vast variation in prevalence estimates, according to Feehan and Company on 1994. However, according to a large British epidemiological survey that is conducted by Ford and Company in 2003, approximately 0.32% of 5 to 15 years olds had the disease, which was higher than the rates of PTSD, OCD, and panic disorder, but lower than separation anxiety disorder, particular phobia, and generalized anxiety disorder. In these British studies, males were diagnosed at a higher rate than females, and the rate increased somewhat with age.
Given the inescapable issue of social anxiety disorder, understanding why people develop social anxiety disorder is vital to resolving the problem. Here, we distinguish these characteristics into 4 categories that may have led to how social anxiety disorder occurs. The characteristics are as follows: personality traits, traumatic events, family history, and behavioral inhibitions.
Starting with personality traits, according to the American Dictionary of Psychology, personality characteristics are described as an internal attribute that is largely stable, continuous, and sustained, that is derived from an individual's feeling, pattern of actions, and attitudes. Although social anxiety disorder appears to be closely connected to personality, it is also very diverse. According to Formark, on 2020, the study discovered a wide range of personality traits among those who are socially anxious. 3 personality types may have been developed based on cluster analysis of the Big 5 personality traits. In the first group, individuals with prototypical social anxiety were both anxious and introverted, which may be interpreted as the traditional concept of social anxiety disorder. These people made up 1/3 of the entire patent sample. Moreover, the second group, ranging 29%, exhibiting introvert consciousness, were highly introvert, modestly anxious with significant levels of consciousness. Lastly, participants having unstable open social anxiety disorder, ranging 38%, which is the third and widest category, appeared anxious while having virtually average range of introversion, according to Formark on 2020.
And up next are traumatic events. A traumatic event is an incident or set of events that creates a great deal of stress. A sensation of fear, powerlessness, significant harm, or the danger of major damage or death characterizes traumatic occurrences and early life events that may have contributed to the development of social anxiety disorder. And according to the Mayo Clinic, harassment, bullying, humiliation, derision, or exclusion are all factors that increase the risk of developing social anxiety disorder in children. During a live performance, people with social anxiety disorder typically suffer public embarrassment or feel absolutely empty. Now onto family history. According to studies, having a family member with panic disorder or generalized social phobia increases your chances of having those disorders as well. Social anxiety disorder has been discovered as a highly widespread and burdensome disorder in the previous decade. Its symptomatology has been well characterized, and successful treatment choices have been well documented. According to studies, as AD occurs in families and manifests itself in early adolescence. Given the importance of the family in children's cognitive, emotional, and behavioral development, familial risk factors should be predicted to have a substantial role in the accurate detection of SAD populations. And lastly, behavioral inhibition, or BI. Henderson describes BI as a temperament that appears early in life and is characterized by intense reactivity to novelty. BI has a degree of consistency throughout childhood and considerably raises the probability of an eventual diagnosis of social anxiety disorder. The child's temperament of behavioral inhibition is another risk factor. Adolescents with this temperament are substantially more prone than children exhibiting certain temperaments to acquire social anxiety disorders. Now, children with BI have heightened reactivity to novelty and increased sensitivity to stimulus variations beginning in infancy. By toddler years, they disengage from a novel or unfamiliar social circumstance and subsequently become less forceful and more vulnerable to rejection than their classmates. As the inhibited youngster withdraws repeatedly, he becomes increasingly negative toward himself, and perceived deficiencies spark the development of negative self-perceptions. And that concludes our review on the related literature, also the risk factors of social anxiety disorders and its prevalence. Proceeding with Muammar Magadapa and his topic on quality life.
Quality life is a subjective degree that is a crucial component in many economic matters. Financial security, job happiness, family life, health, and safety are all factors that contribute to one's quality life. Normal shyness, which is not correlated with impairment or hindrance in most areas of life, must not be mistaken with social anxiety disorder. In relation to social anxiety disorder, an individual's quality life can have a devastating impact to those who suffer from it. For instance, we could forego a profession that requires regular interactions with strangers or avoid social gatherings with friends because they are afraid their hands would shake while eating or drinking. According to Kadzelnik, those with social anxiety disorder earn 10% less than to those without the disease. On the other side, it has been claimed that they have fewer friends and hence have a hard time making new ones. They have a reduced chance of marrying and having children, as well as a higher chance of divorce. A wide range of everyday chores, such as going to the shop and purchasing products, or simply being in public, may be impeded by social phobia. The majority of people who suffer from social anxiety disorder miss out on a lot of possibilities. They are unable to work or are less productive as a result of their symptoms.
Even when compared to other psychiatric diseases, social anxiety disorder is associated with severe negative outcomes and substantial levels of disability. Social anxiety disorder has an impact on all aspects of one's life. Academic achievement is hampered for adolescents who are at danger of dropping out early and earning less than satisfactory credentials. Those with clinical or subclinical social anxiety disorder had a worse grade point average than those without a diagnosis. In a sample of 784 Finnish 13 to 17-year-olds, for social anxious adolescents, social relationships are invariably difficult. They say they have fewer friends and that their peer and romantic connections are of worse quality. Day-to-day activities such as shopping and using the phone can be challenging due to social anxiety. The effects of social anxiety disorder can last far into adulthood. Although the majority of people with social anxiety disorder work, they take more sick days and report lower productivity as a result of their symptoms. When it comes to intimate relationships, people with social anxiety disorder are less likely to marry, divorce, or have children. The existence of comorbid mood or anxiety disorders did not cause functional impairment in persons seeking treatment for social anxiety disorder.
Coping is an important aspect of mental health because how individuals cope with stress can decrease or amplify the consequences of adverse childhood experiences. According to research, the following are the coping mechanisms of social anxiety disorder. In order to heighten an individual confidence and to be able to engage in social activities. According to Cleveland Clinic, the most important strategy on a successful coping against stress is to maintain emotionally supportive relationship with others.
4 coping strategies are focused in this research. Firstly, applied relaxation. Recognizing instances when panic is likely to occur is the first step in applying relaxation. Bernstein et al. 2000. When we say relaxation, it's the state where you feel calm and able to manage day-to-day life. Applying relaxation, or AR, is a long-standing efficacious treatment developed by Lars Goran in 1970 as a treatment for generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD. In applying relaxation, there are 4 strategies in coping with stress and anxiety disorder. The first one is diaphragmatic breathing. Second is progressive muscle relaxation, autogenic training, and guided imagery.
Secondly, the social skills training and behaviors that lead to judgment of social competence by significant others such as teachers, parents, and peers. And they are the tools by which children and youth build, maintain, and improve the quality of the interpersonal relationship. According to Randy L. Sevier and Michelle Joan Black, using instructional strategies for teaching social skills such as modeling, role-playing, positive reinforcement, practice rehearsal, incidental teaching, prompting, and coaching help initiate and develop positive social relationship with others, cope effectively with the behavior demands and expectation of specific settings, and appropriately communicate and assert one's needs, desire, and preferences. Consequently, this interpersonal psychotherapy or IPT help patients to improve their supportive listening, communication analysis, encouragement of affect, etc. Interpersonal therapy for social anxiety disorder is in still early stages evaluated in terms of effectiveness. But this form of treatment is for you when you have a social anxiety disorder. This treatment was modified for its use in social anxiety disorder by Lipsitz and colleges, as it was initially created as therapy for depression. In the first phase, the individual is encouraged to view social anxiety disorder as a disease that be managed instead of a form of weaknesses and insufficiency. The therapist assesses the client in the second phase to discuss specific relational concerns, most commonly role transformation and role disagreement.
Lastly, identifying cognitive distortions. Must begin to comprehend the basis of fear by identifying distorted perceptions. March 2010. People who suffer from social anxiety have a consistent attitude than those who are confident. A collection of incorrect and helpful beliefs is frequently at the root of one's negative habitual thinking. To understand the origin of fear, one must first recognize cognitive distortions, which are prevalent thought patterns marked an excessive or unreasonable mental attitude.